Khabib is retiring. That means we need to vacate the UFC lightweight title and crown a new champion to rule over the division. Who should it be, and how do we get there? What up, Fightful fam, and welcome to your Fightful Fix Tuesday, October 27th edition. We're going to take a look at all the fallout from Khabib's retirement and what is next for the future of the UFC lightweight division. Now, before we get started, if you could please hit like, tap subscribe, and in Khabib's honor, smash that notification bell. It goes such a long way to helping the channel grow, and we really do appreciate it. Big news coming out of UFC 254. We're reminiscing, we're reflecting, we're still talking about the retirement of Khabib Nurmagomedov after going 29-0 by defeating Justin Gaethje via triangle choke in round 2 of their UFC 254 headlining clash. Khabib is retiring. That means we need to vacate the UFC lightweight title and crown a new champion to rule over the division. Who should it be, and how do we get there? Let me say right off the bat, this is mostly fantasy booking because knowing the UFC, they're not going to do some sort of title tournament. I know the fighters are clamoring for it. I know fans really want it. I've seen people in the media break down how they would bracket a tournament. But the UFC doesn't do tournaments very often. They want to crown a champion quickly because they love to slap title belts onto every headlining pay-per-view imaginable. Like, Conor McGregor is probably the only fighter who can get away with headlining a UFC card without a title on the line, and even then, the UFC will try and shoehorn some sort of interim belt into whatever headliner they can. So by my estimation, the most likely candidate for the next UFC lightweight title is a fight between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, although not official. It's marked for January 28, 2021. That seems like the perfect time to put on a huge fight. It's already going to be the biggest fight of 2021, probably for the whole year, the return of Conor McGregor. Now you slap on an undisputed lightweight title, and there's so many good storylines going into it. I mean, look, I would have loved to see Khabib fight more, perhaps go 30-0, see what other challenges present him in the division. Maybe the fight against Tony Ferguson that we never got. But Khabib is such a generational talent. Like, back-to-back submission wins over Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje. There was no one in that division, I don't think, that was gonna beat Khabib anytime soon. There was no doubt in my mind at this point that he would probably go on undefeated should he have continued his career. And so with his departure, it's wide open. There are so many fighters who are legitimate candidates for next UFC lightweight champion, and they all have really great storylines attached to him. Conor McGregor, the once and future king, with Khabib by the side, he can reclaim his throne after a very topsy-turvy last several years of inactivity, because realistically, I think he presents a dangerous matchup, even with the time off, for Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson. Conor McGregor is such an elite striker and arguably ahead of his peers in the top of the lightweight division, and none of them present the sort of takedown threat that Khabib did. And then there's Dustin Poirier, the feel-good comeback story, the guy who was a, good but not great featherweight, re-emerging as a top lightweight contender, capturing the interim belt by defeating Max Holloway and then falling short to Khabib. Justin Gaethje, he came in as the World Series of Fighting champion, beat Michael Johnson in a difficult matchup, lost to Eddie Alvarez, lost to Dustin Poirier, and was, deemed as this action fighter who's taking years off his career. Well, he goes on a tear, punctuated by a late stoppage of Tony Ferguson, and going into UFC 254 was sort of labeled as the biggest threat Khabib has ever faced. Michael Chandler, imagine if he comes in, former Bellator champion 3 times, and then immediately becomes UFC lightweight champion in his first couple of promotional fights. There's just so many great stories going into this. So how would I like to see it arranged? Like I said, I think the most rational thing from the UFC's perspective, strap it onto either Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier, get it over with, have a new champion. Now, I know some people are clamoring for a tournament. What is for sure not going to happen is anything larger than a 4-man tournament. So 8 or 16 person brackets, totally out of the question. But just for the sake of it, let me see how I would match up an 8-person lightweight tournament. Now, if you just want to go numbers 1 through 7, we're going to reserve 8 for Michael Chandler. Sorry, Diego Ferreira. Love you, but we got to have Chandler in there. I know he hasn't fought anyone in the top 10 yet. I mean, he hasn't fought at all in the UFC, but a combination of his credits as a Bellator champion, plus the fact that he was the, fill-in replacement for Justin Gaethje versus Khabib. He's just firmly entrenched in the title picture right now, and it feels unrealistic to sort of separate him from that. So if we're putting Chandler at 8, then from 8 down to 1, it's Chandler, Paul Felder, Charles Oliveira, Dan Hooker, Conor McGregor, Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje. I think if you wanted to do it real easy, you could just go 1 to 8. So Justin would fight Michael Chandler, Poirier would fight Felder, Ferguson would fight Oliveira, and Conor McGregor would fight Dan Hooker. Those are your first 4. Now, if we want to keep this more in the realm of realism, we have to keep in mind that Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor are already sort of scheduled to fight each other. So with that in mind, if you're going to have Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, I think you go Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson versus Paul Felder, and Charles Oliveira versus Dan Hooker. I really like those matchups. That would be a sweet, sweet tournament. But anyway, that's just for fun. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they're going to, assuming Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier actually happens, I see the UFC probably strapping a UFC lightweight title onto that, raising the stakes further, and then I love to see who emerges as the number 1 contender. Also, the reason I like an 8-man tournament more than a 4-man tournament, although, like I said, if we are going to see a tournament, it's probably going to be a 4-man tournament. I imagine it'll be Conor versus Dustin, and then some combination of Gaethje, Ferguson, Chandler. I think it would be Gaethje versus Chandler or Tony versus Chandler, because we're not going to see Tony versus Gaethje again. That was a pretty clear victory for Justin Gaethje. But why I like the idea of an 8-man tournament is it gives Paul Felder and Charles Oliveira, people that you wouldn't put in a 4-man tournament, a good opportunity to really prove their worth and get a top 8 guy. Also, in a weird update, because that's just how we do things over at Fightful, Brian Ortega finally acknowledged and explained that massive cup he was wearing at UFC Fight Island 6 that caught everyone's imaginations, from fighters to fans, men and women alike. So Brian says that apparently he was in such a hurry when leaving for Abu Dhabi that he accidentally grabbed his little brother's cup instead of his own. God only hopes he washed it before using it. He ended up thanking his little brother for quite literally saving his balls, and I don't think that's the real story. I mean, I don't even want to go into Brian Ortega's little brother's cup, so we're just going to leave it there. But I love any time we can sort of push aside the bickering of MMA fans and media and just sort of share a laugh in the ridiculousness, no pun intended, of the sport and its characters. So we are moving on to UFC Vegas 13, I think, which will be most likely the retirement fight for Anderson the Spider Silva as he takes on his Ultimate Fighter doppelganger Uriah Hall in the main event. Okay, let me just have a really stupid, meaningless gripe with the way they've been marketing this event. I understand that it's on Halloween, but they're labeling it as this monstrous fight, this spooky dooky Halloween extravaganza. It's Anderson Silva. I know, threat in the cage, but on the tail end of his career, and one of the nicest, most soft-spoken guys in the sport, versus Uriah Hall, another soft-spoken killer. Like, there was probably a better way to market it and still inject the Halloween spirit into it than being like, ooh, this is a monstrous fight. I don't know. Look at how well WCW did Halloween Havoc. Just have a Halloween-centric show. You know the UFC's not going to do anything fun for this, but this would have been a perfect opportunity to throw in a little WCW Halloween Havoc, NXT Halloween Havoc, and just make it fun. And they're not going to do it, and all we're going to get is a shitty promo out of it, but, you know, that's just my hot take for the day. Let me know in the comments section, how would you like the UFC to go around deciding on their next UFC lightweight champion? Tournament, no tournament, who deserves it? Holla at your boy. Okay, guys, that is all for today's video. If you enjoyed what I had to say, what I do over here, please hit like, tap subscribe, and nail that notification bell. I don't know why I worded it like that. Now, because I've yet to settle on an actual decent outro, stay tuned with us for everything Fightful and so delightful.
Fightful.